You are Locked On Clippers Postcast, part of Locked On Los Angeles on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome into the Clippers Postcast. As the JV gets the start tonight, the regulars rest, and Bones Hyland takes over. This is quite a fun game. Not exactly what I expected. I am Pete Fox. This is the Clippers Postcast. For those of you wondering what the heck the Postcast is, well, it's something new here at Locked On. We come on after the game and give you instant reaction. The podcasters are still there Monday through Friday for you everydayers to break down what's going on with the team. I'm here to break down what happens in the game that just finished. Clippers lose 124-108 to the Phoenix Suns on the second night of a back-to-back. Thank you for watching us on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done. And thanks for listening on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed, wherever you find your podcasts. Again, all of the regulars, we knew Kawhi was more than likely not going to play and probably won't through the regular season. And I have a theory on what's going on there. It's nothing earth-shattering. It's fairly obvious what's going on with this team at this point, but Kawhi was out. Paul George was out. Zubats did not play. Russell Westbrook did not play. James Harden did not play. And I believe Norm Powell was the last one that was not even suited up. So that left us with PJ Tucker getting the start, Mason Plumlee, Bones Hyland, Terrence Mann, and Amir Coffey. So Coffey and Mann, the only two regulars that we saw on the floor tonight for the Clippers, and Mason Plumlee, we see a fair amount. And all of these guys played with high energy and played some defense. At times late in the game, it became kind of an all-star game, up and down, back and forth, end to end, not really worried too much about whether or not they were going to try to get a stop. But there were plenty of turnovers, steals, etc., etc. I also need to mention that tonight's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Not a ton of defense, but I think the highlight, without a doubt, not too surprising, Bones Hyland with a career high 37, banging down threes. He was 6 of 12. He had 15 points at the end of the first quarter, and the Clippers shot 52% in the first. Suns were at 29%. Bones was not only making threes, making shots, he was penetrating the lane around the rack. As far as the bucket list, a whole lot of Bones Hyland on the bucket list. I thought for a second that I was just going to do only Bones because he was far and away the 5-star player of the night, but Brandon Boston snuck in. I probably should have just moved him out, but he had a good game too. Mason Plumlee had a good game. It was fun. It was a game where we thought it was going to be a groaner. And I thought if you were a fan at this game and, you brought your kid and saved up and, went to the game and took my advice, downloaded the Game Time app and said, hey, I'm going to the Clippers game tonight. It's because tickets were fairly reasonable. I don't know if those guys knew that because they were like $30-$40. Probably up top, but nonetheless, you're in the building and it's still a lot of fun. So if you went to this game expecting to see at least Paul George, Russell Westbrook, and you don't get any of those guys except on the bench cheering on Bones Hyland, are you disappointed? Maybe a little bit, but still the experience is there, going to the arena, getting the overpriced hot dog and beer or soda for your kid, ice cream, whatever. It's still all part of the enjoyment. And Bones Hyland put on a high quality performance, an NBA level performance. I call him the JV, and that's not very nice. That's not very fair, but they don't, most of these guys don't get a ton of time. Brandon Boston Jr. was very good, played 40 minutes, 10 of 24 with 23 points. So second in scoring on the team. He had just 2 threes and 7 rebounds, 3 turnovers, 1 block, and 2 steals. As for Bones, here's the total line: 37 points, 3 steals, 9 assists. One of them was to, I think he had a few to Mason Plumlee. One of them came in the first quarter, an alley-oop. Oh, no, it was to Tice. So he was feeding the big men quite a bit. So Bones was just everywhere. I think what you take away from this game, and we knew that Bones could play. When Russell got hurt and Bones was playing a fair amount, it was like, I didn't know Bones Hyland before I started covering this team this year. I wasn't really familiar with his game, but I did hear a lot of conversation about him from Brian Seaman and whoever was doing the color commentary. There was always a talk. There was kind of a rumbling about Bones Hyland. I got to get Bones out there, blah, blah, blah. I mean, obviously he's got a cool name, and, you know, people like calling people named Bones, right? So when their name is Bones, you try to say Bones as often as you can. Just like on Seinfeld, when George wanted his name changed to T-Bone, right? Because it was a long story. You gotta watch Seinfeld to understand it. But anyway, people named Bones are cool, and I thought maybe that played into why they would talk about him a lot. But then when he finally got on the floor, he wasn't all that impressive, because he'd come in the final minutes, the quote-unquote garbage time of a game, when the Clippers were either getting pounded or cruising to victory, and he didn't really impress. But it is very hard to impress in the final 3 or 4 minutes of a game when you're down double digits or you're up double digits. So I wasn't all that impressed with Bones Hyland. And then when Russell Westbrook got hurt, he was getting more minutes, and you could see right away that he has a knack for the game. I mean, he's smooth, he's aggressive, he is a good shooter, and he's not shy. He takes that deep 27, 28-foot three, made a bunch of those tonight. And he's a good passer. He's a good rebounder. So he does all of the elements that you want from a point guard, right? He plays the game with an aggressive attitude, and he's very smooth, and he has a nose for the ball, and definitely a very, very aggressive basketball player. So when Bones Hyland gets into this game tonight as a starter and starts making shots, I'm thinking, all right, are they going to try to find more time for him? Hopefully, because I feel like he would be beneficial to them when all the starters are back on the floor and we get to the playoffs. It's, you know, this kind of thing is a confidence building performance for Bones Hyland, for Mason Plumlee, for PJ Tucker, who had 10 points. Across the board, there are a lot of positives to take away from this game, and we'll get to those along with the bucket list right after the first break. This is the Clipper Postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done. You can also listen to us on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. The starters, the regulars, rest tonight. Probably will rest Friday against the Jazz and again on Sunday against Houston, because for the most part, I'm thinking the Clippers are locked into 4. They cannot go any lower than 5, which means they are preparing for a meeting in the first round with the Dallas Mavericks. Tonight, they lose to the Suns, who kind of needed this one, 124-108. Suns trying to stay out of the play-in tournament, so they needed this one, and in the end, they cruised away and got the victory rather comfortably, 124-108. We'll take the break, come back, and get to the bucket list here on the Locked On Clippers Postcast. I am Pete Fox, by the way. I did the Dodgers earlier today. Now I'm doing Clippers. I've been covering sports in LA since 2007 for ESPN LA and NBC Sports Radio. Thanks for joining me. All right, tonight's show brought to you by Game Time. Killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Game Time is fast and easy. It's a great way to buy tickets, not just for sports. They got music, theater, comedy, all sorts of different racing, a variety of different, I guess that's technically sports. But, you know, theater, sometimes it's hard finding tickets for theater. I'm not a big theater goer, but when I do, I love using these apps to find a deal, and Game Time has been very helpful to me. I've used them more than once to buy sports tickets this year, as a matter of fact, for spring training. So the thing I love most about it, though, is the view from the seat, because you know exactly what you're going to be seeing when you get there, and there's no guesswork. There's no misreading where you think you might be sitting, and you tell your girlfriend or your wife or your partner or your buddy, hey, we're sitting right down the third base line, and you show up and you're in right field. None of that going on with Game Time. Is you get a view right from your seat. They are obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and the closer you get to the event, the cheaper the tickets are. So the sliding scale goes in your favor if you're willing to wait close to the start of the game, even up to an hour before the game starts. I was looking for what's available in the next couple of days. You got Dodger tickets on Friday. They take on the Padres, around $50. And then tomorrow night, Kings are in action in downtown, and those tickets were in the $30, $35 range. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKED, Locked On, for your first purchase of $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, great deals guaranteed with the Game Time app. All right, Clippers fall, losing to the Suns in downtown, 124-108. But that is not the story of the night. The story of the night is that the B team got in there as the A team was resting, and they took care of business for a good portion of this game. The Suns really pulled away in the fourth, winning it with a 32-15 tally in the fourth quarter. But as far as the first three quarters, Bones Hyland was in charge. He scored 35 points. He had 5 rebounds and 2 assists at that point, and becomes the second Clipper, I believe I saw in 25 years to put up those numbers in just 3 quarters, 35, 5, and 2. So surprisingly, he didn't get much going in the fourth quarter, as he only finished with 37 after 35 through 3, but he played 43 minutes, and you probably can assume that maybe he ran out of gas because he was playing defense. Like, these guys, I felt like, were guarding the perimeter. Not all night, but at least in the first half and part of the third quarter, they were doing what the starters don't always want to do. So maybe that's something that those guys sitting on the bench watching can absorb and say, hey, that's kind of what we need to do. There were times in the second where it got a little lazy and a little loose, and they started fumbling the ball around. It got pretty sloppy, but the good news was, in spite of the turnovers early in the second quarter, they turned things around, started banging down threes, making shots, got back into the game, and had a lead at the break by 1. It was amazing. So there was just a lighthearted, loose feeling about this game. In spite of the fact that it felt like the Suns needed it, the Clippers were just playing pretty free. And that sometimes, frequently, Brian Seaman, Jim Jackson brought it up many times, that can work against the Suns. When all these guys that are normally on the bench get to start and get to play heavy minutes, they go out there with a chip on their shoulder and something to prove. And it kind of did feel like that tonight. So I feel like there's in spite of the loss, there's plenty of positives to take away from this game. So let's get to the bucket list, the Bones list, if you will, tonight. We're going to have a few more than 5 because Bones was, and I of course missed a ton. Bones was making shots all over the place. In at number 5 on tonight's bucket list, Bones Hyland, a 3 at the 8:50 mark to make it 10-2. So the Clippers got off to a nice hot start there, and Bones Hyland was going early. Then about 50 seconds later, he had a sweet layup to make it 12-5. He was just penetrating and looked great around the rim as well as from beyond the arc. Then at the 3:22 mark, another sweet bucket for Bones Hyland. It was a penetrating dunk. He was not shy at all going to the hoop. He was not shy about shooting that 27-foot, 28-foot three, and he made a fair share of those. The dunk at 322 made it 20-19 Clippers. In at number 4, Brandon Boston Jr. had a three at the 220 mark of the second to make it 53-45. This is after the Clippers had gotten a little lazy and sloppy early in the second and started turning the ball over. This was a needed three. It kind of created some momentum and got the Clippers on a roll. And late in that quarter, as they headed towards the half, Bones Hyland got hot again, had a steal, a fast break layup. It was his 21st point of the night. It was at 109 of the second quarter. It forced a timeout for the Suns. It made it 55-51. So now they're within 4. Then Bones had a deep three just about at the buzzer. Couple of seconds before the buzzer at the half. He had 24 in the first half. It gave the Clippers a 56-55 lead. And number 1 tonight, Bones had a steal and then a layup at the 9:36 mark to make it 196. And right after that, honorable mention to an alley-oop to Plumlee to make it 102-96. So that was, about midway through the fourth quarter, and the Clippers were still looking good at that point. They were up 102-96, but they ran out of gas, got sloppy, started turning it over, and the Suns took over and won the game rather comfortably on the back of Kevin Durant, who had 24, and Devin Booker, who had 37. Booker was hot early, making threes. He got a little cold in the third, but in the fourth got hot again. He and Kevin Durant are a tandem, and they throw Bradley Beal in there, who had 26. This team is they're no joke. So that win last night for the Clippers in Phoenix was a confident, solid win that really boosted the confidence a lot, you have to assume. Devin Booker, the Kentucky Wildcat, is such a smooth shooter, as is Kevin Durant. So the fact that the Clippers were able to kind of contain those guys last night and get the win was solid. I mean, it's a good feeling for them, as hopefully they're getting things back on track, starting to play the kind of basketball you want to see heading into the playoffs. I still have to wonder, what does it mean for Kawhi Leonard? Is there an issue? Are they just going to pick right up where they left off? You have to assume more than likely, right? It's not going to be an issue. They've played enough together, but that has been a problem for the Clippers in the past, right? With Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, that they didn't get the appropriate amount of time on the floor together heading into the playoffs. I mean, that situation was apparent a few years ago, and it was throughout the entire season, kind of a different level of those guys not being in sync. I guess we can assume that they are, and they're feeling good about the playing with each other this season, because they played a ton of games together. I mean, this starting lineup for the Clippers is top 5 in the league for consistency. For a point there, dating back to November 1st, right around the first of the year, when we started doing the postcast, it was the number 1 most consistent, regularly used starting lineup in the NBA. With the injuries to Russell Westbrook, who's obviously not a starter, but the injuries here and there, they started mixing it up a little bit. But the Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Ivica Zubac, Terrence Mann, and James Harden starting 5 is a very confident, regularly used starting 5 by Ty Lue and the Clippers. So I don't know that it's going to be an issue, but it's definitely something that's kind of hanging around in the back of my head. Is there a chance that these guys will be out of rhythm going into the playoffs? The Dallas Mavericks are definitely not out of rhythm. They are playing some good basketball right now. So you have to be a little worried about the fact that Kawhi will probably not play. Paul George will probably not play. James Harden, all these guys will probably sit these final 2 games because Utah's terrible. And it doesn't really matter if they win or not. Right? So we sit and go, fingers crossed. Let's hope the Dallas Mavericks start to fall asleep down the stretch as well, maybe resting some guys. This is the old adage from the NFL, final week of the season. Do you rest your guys if you're in and you have a first round bye, or do you get out there and play them? I don't know. I go both ways on it. I really do. It's different because the NFL is obviously a more physical game than the NBA, but rhythm is a huge thing. And if you lose that rhythm, you're screwed. Ask the Dodgers. Ask the Dodgers how that goes when you have a week off after the regular season comes to an end before you start your playoff action, and the rhythm just takes a dump, goes to sleep, goes to hibernate, and you play a team like the Arizona Diamondbacks, who have been fighting for a month or two, right? Yeah, it's not good. So let's hope the Clippers don't suffer from that as they head into the playoffs, more than likely facing off against the Dallas Mavericks in the first round. I'm Pete Fox. This is the Locked On Clippers Postcast. Thanks for watching us on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done, and listening on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. We'll take our final break and come back and wrap this puppy up as the Clippers fall to the Suns 124-108, but a fun game nonetheless. Bones Hyland, will give some more love to Bones, who finished the night with 37. All right, tonight's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. Brought to you by us, our sponsor, BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest, big or small. Certain things can really start to get to you. It is important to let that out, especially to someone who is unbiased on your life, that doesn't really know you. They can just take an outside perspective and evaluate what's going on. I've done therapy a few times over the years. I found it to be very helpful from the standpoint that it gives you the tools to deal with things that are causing you a struggle in your life, to be situations that are frustrating, that cause you anger and get you, upset with what's going on at work, what's going on at home. When you talk to a therapist, they give you tools to how to deal with these things. And that's not necessarily important. Why don't you try saying these things to your significant other or to your boss, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. And having done both in person and online, they're very, very similar. I found talking to the computer in a chat just as personal as being in the same room. So celebrate progress that you've made. Find solutions, find tools to deal with issues that you're having. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, final segment here after the Clippers fall to the Suns 124-108, led by Bones Hyland. Bones Hyland came in and started filling it up right away. As I said, 6 of 7 in the first quarter, 15 points. He finished the night with 6 threes, 15 buckets, 1 of 1 from the free throw line, 37 points. His plus minus was -7. He had 3 steals. One of them he turned into a fantastic layup bucket, had the steal, and just took the ball, drove the lane, laid it up and in with the sun hanging on his back. Fantastic play. He just kept making them over and over again, kind of had that fearless look at his eye. And in the final seconds of the game, they were trying to get him one more shot to make a final 3 so he could get to 40. Obviously a career high for Bones Hyland, 15 of 29 in 43 minutes. Amir Coffey played 37 minutes, 4 of 13, 2 threes for 11 points. Brandon Boston Jr. also played with a ton of energy, 40 minutes. He made 10 baskets, 2 threes, 1 of 2 from the line. He had 23 points, 3 turnovers, 1 block, 2 steals, 2 assists, and 7 rebounds. Let's see what the Phoenix Suns, or rather the Dallas Mavericks, are up to. I know they've been red hot. That's more than likely the Clippers' first round opponent. They are riding a 5-game winning streak, a win over the Heat, the Hornets. They haven't really played any tough opponents recently. They did beat the Warriors in a tight one, 108-106, and they also took care of the Hawks. They lost to the Warriors, beat the Rockets, the Kings on back-to-back days. So this streak where they've been rolling, I wouldn't say there's one tough opponent in there other than the Thunder and the Nuggets. They edged the Nuggets 107-105, lost to the Thunder, beat the Spurs, Jazz in back-to-back games, Kings in back-to-back games. Kings are not bad. Obviously, they punched the Clippers in the mouth a couple of times. Rockets, Warriors are solid. Hawks, Hornets, Heat. The Heat are okay. So I'm not terribly worried. I think my point is that going into this postseason round one, Clippers as the 4 seed, which more than likely I believe means they get the home court taking on the Dallas Mavericks. I like our chances. I really do. I don't think that I would feel that way if it was the Thunder. Nuggets, obviously, we know that they're good, although the Clippers just beat them recently. So that would be a opportunity for them as well. But I think the two that I'm probably most afraid of, Minnesota and the Thunder, because of their youth and the defense that they both play. I guess a third team that would scare me a little bit if the Clippers bump into them at some point is New Orleans, but the New Orleans Pelicans have kind of fallen apart of late. So I think the Clippers are going in with the right attitude. Hopefully they're healthy. We have not heard anything negative about what's going on with Kawhi's knee soreness. It's just rest at this point, right? So let's hope it's not anything worse than what they're leading on, that he'll be 100% when the playoffs start. And let's hope that rhythm is there for them. And I feel confident that the defense will also just happen, right? That proverbial switch is going to be flipped. When they've played big games on big stages, whether it's network TV, TNT, or ESPN, against the top squad, they seem to show up with a different level of intensity than when they're on the regional sports network against a moderately good team, right? So I think that there's something to be said for that. And I'm starting to feel more confident that the Clippers will have that intensity when it is needed. And hopefully tonight's performance from Bones Hyland and the like will also give them, just an idea of what is possible. Like, hopefully they just come away with a positive attitude about this game. The guys that played will have more confidence when they get into the game in the postseason, and the guys that we're watching will just feel good about the team as a whole, right? It's kind of like in baseball, if you're going through a bad streak and let's say, you don't necessarily get a base hit, but you square one up and you hit it hard, right? That's the one thing that can kind of turn you around. They were talking about Shohei Ohtani recently, that he got out of a slump with a cricket bat, just swinging the cricket bat, because you could, it's a flat paddle kind of a thing, and you could see the path, and it's squaring up the bat, because a baseball bat is obviously round, the cricket bat is square and flat. So just from swinging this cricket paddle, he started to have a better swing thought, and his swing path improved, and he started getting base hits. So maybe just for the Clipper bench, sitting there tonight, having fun, watching all these bench guys going out there, Bones Hyland, Brandon Boston, and the like, having a good performance, playing a solid game with a ton of energy, will give the Clippers that same kind of energy and motivation and just positivity. That's what I'm going with in this 128-104 loss to the Suns. Again, off tomorrow, back at it on Friday against Utah, and then Sunday they will take on the 124-108, the final. Sunday they will take on the Houston Rockets to wrap up the regular season at 12:30. When it was all said and done, Bones Hyland led the way with 37, a career high for him. Clippers now 51-29 after the loss, 25-14 at home. Suns 47-33 after the win, 22-17 on the road, trying their best to stay out of that play-in game. Thank you for watching me. I'm Pete Fox. This is the Locked On Clippers postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done. And of course, you can listen to us on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed, wherever you find your podcasts. Have a good night. We're off tomorrow. Back at it on Friday. I'll be doing Dodgers. And then on Sunday, I'll be with the Clippers to wrap up the regular season against the Houston Rockets. Have a good night. We will talk to you again on Friday.